Welcome back my gentle people, this is Corner Stories and today we have two stories and they each come with an update. Just a bit of a warning, the subject matter in both stories is kinda dark, with trigger warnings and all that. Now let's get into story 1. For context I, 25F, have been married to my husband, 30M, 1 year together for 3. We had our baby daughter 6 months ago after a very complicated pregnancy. I should probably make it clear that I am a tan curly-haired Latina while my husband is a blonde blue-eyed white man. I've gotten along greatly with my husband's family aside from, you guessed it, my MIL. She's always been very cold with me even though I try to be very nice. She's even gone as far as to calling me a insert racist word for Latinos. My husband has always been on my side and always shut her down whenever she made rude remarks or backhanded comments. Two things that really struck a nerve with me were when we announced our engagement. For context, it was at a family dinner. Everyone was ecstatic except my MIL. Instead of congratulating us in a proper way, she said in a very harsh tone, "Oh wow, honestly I didn't think it would last, congrats I guess." This really hurt, as even though I know she doesn't like me, I was more than excited to officially become part of the family. And when we announced our pregnancy at a family cookout, while everyone congratulated us, she started crying and went inside the house. I followed to make sure she was okay, as I thought she would for once be overjoyed. And oh boy was I wrong. When I asked if she was okay, she went completely off on me, saying I was ruining the bloodline and that she refused to believe her bloodline would be ruined by an insert racist word like me. I was floored by her comment and went back out without saying a word. I told my husband about what MIL said and he was visibly upset and told me that her opinion didn't matter and that the baby and I was all he needed. Anyways, fast forward 6 months, our beautiful baby girl was thriving. She had beautiful tan skin, blue eyes and long black luscious curls. I don't think I have ever fallen in love the way I did when I finally got to meet her. She was definitely worth everything. Anyways, my MIL always hated my daughter's hair and would make comments about how my daughter's hair looked like a nest and suggested cutting it off. I always shut her down, of course, because her hair is very thick and beautiful. Well, now to this situation. My husband's job requires him to travel out of state. I also work, so I would always leave my daughter with my parents when I have to go to work. One day I get a call that my mother was in a car accident and was rushed to the hospital. I drove to my parents' house as fast as I could to get my dad and my daughter. I obviously didn't want to take my daughter to the hospital, so I called my husband and he suggested leaving our daughter with his parents for a while and he would be on the first flight back. Luckily there was a flight the same day, so my daughter wouldn't be with my in-laws for much time. I should also add this would be the first time MIL is with the baby without one of us there. I dropped the baby off and head to the hospital with my father. If anyone was wondering, my mom wasn't severely injured, just a minor concussion and a fractured wrist, but if you've ever been to the hospital you'd know that the waiting time is incredibly long. So about 5 hours later we are finally good to go home. My husband is on his way from the airport and we decided to meet up at in-laws' house. When I got to the house I knocked on the door multiple times but to no avail, which is weird because the lights are on. I start calling my MIL because I thought maybe she didn't hear me. I called 4 times and no answer. So now I'm starting to get worried. I start banging on the door like a crazy person when my FIL pulls up into the driveway and asks. I started explaining to him and he quickly opens the door. I start yelling for my MIL and I get no response. I run upstairs while FIL searches downstairs. When I reach the bedroom, what I saw completely broke my heart. I see my mother-in-law trying to wake my baby, panicking. I look at my daughter and she is completely red, swollen, her hair is short and blonde. The moment I saw this I started yelling like a crazy person, grabbed my daughter and yelled at FIL to call an ambulance. As I run down the stairs with my baby, my husband arrives. I'm screaming and crying, spewing incoherent words. After what felt like eternity the ambulance arrived and we rushed to the ER. They took my baby and started doing everything they could to save her. MIL stayed home and my parents went home to rest, which is understandable. I was finally able to explain to them what had happened and it's safe to say both my husband and FIL were furious. About 2 hours in, my MIL arrives and without thinking I jump on her and start screaming and hitting her. My husband manages to get me off of her and FIL escorts her out of the hospital. The doctors finally come out and tell me my daughter will okay. She simply had an allergic reaction to all the chemicals, so they had to shave off the remainder of her hair. He also says that if I hadn't found her when I did, her chances of making it would have been close to none. My husband and I were so relieved to hear our baby girl was okay. We stayed overnight in the hospital and were good to go. When we got home my husband and I had a serious conversation and decided we would go no contact with MIL and I would leave my job to stay with my daughter until she was ready to start school, as I no longer wanted to take any chances. After a while our phones started getting bombarded with messages from relatives, some taking our side and the rest taking MIL's side, saying that I was an asshole for attacking her as it wasn't going to help my baby. We took it to social media and shared that we would be going no contact with MIL and filing for a restraining order, and we would not hesitate to block and go and see anyone else who decides to defend her actions. I also wanted to add that FIL has decided to divorce MIL as he cannot stand to look at her, so at least my daughter will get to grow with her paternal grandfather. Anyways, here is where I want to ask, was I wrong for attacking her? Should I have just yelled at her to leave and taken a different approach? Sorry for any grammar mistakes or typos, English is not my first language. Hello, I thought I would provide some more info. It's only been 2 days since this situation has happened. Yes, we have filed. Unfortunately, it is taking longer than needed. Yes, the doctors spoke to me regarding filing. They were the ones who advised us to do. We were going to anyways. Yes, we are suing, although some of you brought up a good point of waiting for FIL's divorce to be finalized so that he is not affected. I'm not sure if he will be affected either way, but I will be asking my lawyer about this. We have blocked a few relatives and have blocked MIL as well. Hi, so I will no longer be replying to comments and decided I would log out until I have enough information for an update. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so before I get into the comments, I just want to say, I wish the MIL the very worst in life. Or proper criminal charges that will land her in prison for a very long time. I cannot wrap my mind around that level of hate, ignorance and abuse of a child. I'm so angry I cannot even continue. Here are some relevant comments. Your MIL is a full-blown racist piece of shit and nearly killed your daughter because of it. I would honestly consult a lawyer and see if you can try pushing for charges or something. Glad to hear that your FIL is a good man who's kicking that fucking psycho to the curb. Comment 2. 100% she should be able to be charged under child endangerment laws, assuming US based here. I believe most boxes of hair dye have an age warning, something like for people 16 and older. Bonus, if you live in one of the 48 states where there is a hate crimes law, you could ask for a sentencing enhancement based on the fact that the child endangerment was done with hateful intentions BC of the child's race ethnicity. Comment 3. Yeah, I was thinking child endangerment as well. Being able to tie it to the obvious racism would be great too. I would definitely ask a lawyer about this if you're in the USA. Now let's move on to story 2. I will drop the trigger warning here. There is mention of child abuse. Hello everyone, I desperately need advice. I, 27F, went out to dinner with my daughter, 6F, my mother, 50F, and her best friend, 51F. It was a treat of my mom's best friend, let's call her Yolanda. They have been friends for 20 plus years, so basically I've known her my whole life. Therefore she has also met my daughter plenty of times. My daughter is a very cheerful child, and besides the normal child but throwing in the wind moments, she listens really well. Ever since she was small I'd practice public outings with her. We have a cat, who is usually very uninterested in anything except for loud noises etc. So I came up with a little game in which I would dress up the table nicely, put our food on our fancy plates, we'd dress up ourselves too, and then we'd eat without startling our cat. Which basically meant, no screaming or overly loud talking, no running, and when we spill food we'd have to clean it up quickly so the cat wouldn't get to it. This technique has worked really well for taking my daughter out in public, and she has rarely ever made a scene. As we are sitting in the restaurant eating, my daughter is talking to my mom. Yolanda bends over to me and says, "Your daughter is very calm. She is not even running or screaming. How did you teach her that? Do you hit her?" I was of course taken aback. It took me a few moments to respond, but when I did I explained how I got her to behave in public. Yolanda continues to say that surely no child would play a boring game like that and that I must be hitting her. She then says, "Don't worry, I used to spank my kids too. It works really well and at least one of them came out great. The other one got ruined by his father. No shame in hitting your child when they need to be set straight. This is where I might be the asshole." I answered with, "I don't hit my child, I parent my child. I teach her things. Not everyone is like you, and some people actually care about the well-being and mental state of their children. Some people do not have to hurt kids to feel in control." Of course this was the exact moment where my daughter was no longer talking to my mom, and so my mom heard what I said. Yolanda got up and left. The three of us finished our food and I paid the bill. Later on my mother called me and said I had to apologize to her. That what I said was way out of pocket and that I painted Yolanda off to be a horrible mother. That it was none of my business how she raised her kids and that I was cruel for saying the things I said. I explained to Mom what Yolanda had said to me and that she made it my business, when she not only casually shared that she used to hit her children, but also accused me of hitting my own. Especially in a public place where someone could overhear it and think it's true. My mom said I'm taking things out of proportion and that Yolanda just wanted to let me know that she understands how hard it is to be a single parent. I told my mom that I will not be apologizing but that I will take an apology for her absurd and out-of-pocket comment. I then told mom that if she wants to stand by her friend, instead of being realistic and honest about the situation, she could join her and apologize to me too. Now dad says I'm an asshole too. Now there is an update to this story and I will get into it, but let me know in the comments what you think about the situation. Should OP apologize or is she in the right of it? Now let's get into the update. I want to thank everyone for their comments. I tried to read them all. I especially want to thank the people that shared their stories about what they've been through. I hope each and every one of you managed to soldier through and found someone that showed you what actual harmless love is. I saw a lot of comments saying I'm not the asshole. I also saw quite a few people say I am not the asshole, but I didn't have to be as harsh as I was. I agree. I didn't have to be, but I was in defense. The woman whom I have known for as long as I can remember, who took me in when my mother and I had a very toxic relationship, not only accused me of doing something horrifying, but she also turned out to be the very thing I hate. Both my parents have been abusive growing up and Yolanda was the one standing up for me. Her oldest son has confirmed that what she said is true. He called me after he heard about the fight. Now on to my mother. Boy, did SHXT go down. Occasionally on Wednesdays my daughter will have a grandma and grandpa day in which they take her to a playground and go to McDonald's. The Wednesday was planned and I didn't cancel, because I felt like my daughter didn't have anything to do with what was going on and my father would be there. When my daughter came home that evening, she asked me, "Mommy, do you not love grandma anymore?" So I asked her why she thought that, and it turned out that mom had talked about the situation and about me being upset in front of my daughter. My blood was boiling. I comforted my daughter and took her to bed. I called my mom instantly. I made sure my daughter couldn't hear me. I explained to her what my daughter had said. My mother of course said that she didn't mean for my daughter to overhear the conversation. In which I responded that if she didn't want her to hear, maybe next time she shouldn't talk about it in front of her. I then said to her that she hurt me by saying I should apologize and that it makes it seem like she would be okay with me hitting my daughter. In which my mother replied, "Of course not, I know you would never do that." I once more said that I will not be apologizing, that I said what I meant whether it was harsh or not, and that I do not need those type of people in my life. I told her that I would apologize for being harsh after Yolanda apologizes to me, but that I stand by my words and will not take them back. My mother tried to defend Yolanda again by saying Yolanda had a hard time with her husband when raising the kids. In which I replied, that is not the kids' fault, they are not responsible for their parents' bad choices and so they shouldn't be punished for it. My mother said she'd rather not talk about it anymore and that she understands that I won't apologize first. That she'll talk to Yolanda to see if the situation can be fixed. The next day mom texted me to invite me to lunch together at her house and I went. The second I walked into the door I knew we would have a fight. It's the typical thing of knowing your parent is upset with you. She gave me the mom look and said, "Sit down." The attitude instantly had me feeling some type of way too. I don't remember exactly what she said, but the gist of it basically was, "I am your mother and you will do as I say." She said I had to apologize, that I had to stop putting her in between her friend and me, that I was a bad daughter for doing so, etc. I am actually shaking as I type this thinking about it. I told her that I did not put her in between anything, that she butted in the second she called me to say I have to apologize. That she was being a horrible mother and grandmother for tolerating anyone to speak of us this way. And then I might have been harsh again because I said, "I'm not surprised though, after all you're exactly like her." My mom was yelling and shouting at me that I was lying and that she always gave me everything I needed, blah blah. I was in the process of putting my jacket on and grabbing my things. I walked out without saying another word. In the car I instantly called Dad, explained to him what happened and he apologized for Mom, said that he would have a word with her when he came back home. Not going to lie, when I came home I cried. I'm in disbelief. As I mentioned before, my parents were abusive growing up. I have lived in group homes from my 12th till my 18th. 2 years ago my mom mentioned that she saw then that she hadn't always been the best parents and that seeing me with my daughter made her realize that. That she's happy that eventually I came around. I was quite the rebel for a long time, took me years and years of therapy to learn how to deal with the damage done by my childhood. And so to hear her deny it now by saying I am lying, which we both know damn well that I'm not, is honestly soul-crushing. We have gotten closer the past couple of years and I actually felt like I had a mother this time around. I called my therapist and thankfully she has a spot open tomorrow, so I can deal with all of this. Needless to say that I won't be seeing or talking to my mother for a long time. I have already told Dad seeing what happened last time, Mom won't be seeing my daughter till all of this is solved, or if she can guarantee that none of this comes back to my daughter. Dad will pick up my daughter Saturday though to do something together. I told him not to break my trust, and he has said that he absolutely disagrees with my mother's behavior and that they're fighting about it too now. I don't know what I'm going to do next. For now I'm putting it to the side to focus on people and things that actually show me they care, instead of this toxicity. Once again I want to thank everyone for their support, honest opinions and time out their day. I might update again, I might not. It depends on how I'm feeling.